welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Keiko. I'm a mixed media artist and watercolor paint maker based in Hawaii. It's the end of the year 2025. Can you believe it? Time flies. And it's also the end of my animal themed sketchbook that I started a year ago. There's just one page left. So let's finish it today. But first, let's have a look at this sketchbook. This is a sketchbook I bought a year ago in November 2024 on my last trip to Japan, and it's a Maruman vifart watercolor sketchbook. I'll leave the information down in the description box. Starting with the first page, this was a drawing my mom did during one of my live streams here on YouTube. And I thought this was so darling that I decided to put this on the first page. I usually do not start with my first page. I leave this blank and then I go back to it later. I feel that this really helps me with overcoming the first page fear and just getting started on the second page. I bought this sketchbook last year and that's when I started it. So this is from December 2024. I had bought some new art supplies in Japan and tried them out on this double page spread. We had acrylic markers, watercolors, more watercolors and colored pencils, both water soluble and not soluble. And during that time I drew a lot of chickens, so these just came to mind. This is 2025, January and February. And as I mentioned earlier, I am a member of 2 Patreon clubs right now, and one is the Nice Day Club of Tanya Miss Nice Day. She's also here on YouTube, and I'll leave a link down below in the description. What I usually do is that I follow the tutorials to a certain extent. For example, Tanya did this little penguin tutorial, and then I add my own things. So here, for example, I added a lot more penguins and little icons like these, and then lettering as well. And I did the same thing here on this side. These chickens here are very quick chickens, and those were fun of my own art challenge. If you followed me for a while, you know that I host an art challenge every month, week, year, so to speak. And this year was all about colors. January, for example, was about the color blue. And in February, I did something a little bit different. It was black and white plus one color. So that's why we have these 3 colors here, or I should say 1 color, red and black and white. And then this is still in the same month. So as you can see, again, black and white. And then 1 more color, which was kind of like this greenish color here. And the prompt was panda. And you can also see that I did my sketch with this purple pencil first. And I really don't mind for my pencil sketch to show through. That's why I just left them there, even though this type of pencil is erasable. I have to say that I really like these 2 page spreads. You'll see more of this sketchbook soon, but I can already tell you that these are kind of like my favorites here in this sketchbook. This here was done with both watercolor and gouache. You can see the very opaque character of the background here, and then a bit more, you know, the watercolor texture here. And then over here, back to my own challenge, we're in March now, was this bird done with watercolor and colored pencil. Then this is another good example for a page that I left blank because I wasn't sure what to put on it. So this was blank until very recently. This was another page I did for my own challenge, and the prompt in that week was Hawaiian and Japanese traditional patterns. And I just incorporated them in the bugs. So just recently I decided, okay, it's time to fill up this page. So I took one of Miss Nice Day's tutorials and then incorporated some Hawaiian patterns in here too. These are more tutorials from Tanya's Miss Nice Day Club. And the only thing I changed or added to her tutorials was the circles. And you can see that I continue this idea on the next few pages. So circles again. Also, I added this Australian native flower, which wasn't part of the tutorial, and the lettering. Same thing here. I added the circles and the flourished lettering to Miss Nice Day's tutorials. A word about tutorials. I do find it very relaxing sometimes to have a tutorial that I can just follow and then add a little bit of my own rather than coming up with the whole illustration myself. I also like doing that, but sometimes, especially when it's maybe evening and I'm tired, I just like to do a tutorial. This was from a live stream with Tanya, and it was cute. I think we were gonna paint a wombat, one of Australia's native animals, but turned into a quokka, or maybe it was the other way around. I'm not sure, but it was a very entertaining live stream. Back to my own challenge. Now we're in Aloha 25 July, and the prompt was hummingbird. And I picked up the circle motif again, and this is the first and I believe the only time maybe I used metallic shimmer paints. By the way, all watercolors you see in this sketchbook are handmade by me, my Alohawatercolors, which is my brand. This double page spread was inspired by one of the very, very few times my husband and I go swimming and snorkeling. It's very unfortunate. I love doing it, but I just don't get to the ocean as much as I would love to. So we did manage that day in July, and I came home and painted a few of the fish, and this is an urchin I saw that day. This was done both in gouache and watercolor, and then a little bit of neocolor too on top. Two more tutorials inspired by Tanya, Miss Nice Day, and I changed up the foliage in this one and added a background and lettering over here. These were both done in watercolor and then colored pencil on top. These two pages are a bit different. They are, I guess, more realistic and not as cute. So my mom and I went for a little birthday getaway. We went to a beautiful lake in southern Germany, and even though it was freezing cold, there were so many ducks on that lake and in the lake. I can't even imagine how cold their feet were. But yeah, these beautiful, cute ducks inspired me to do two portraits. I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes I just feel like drawing more realistically, and sometimes I feel like drawing more in the cute style, like these two, for example. So this cat I just did very recently, inspired by the general Christmas and winter vibe here in December right now. And the owl was done during Tanya's Christmas party online on Zoom, and I added the metallic glitter lettering, and I changed up the owl a tiny little bit. And now for the last page. For the last page, I wanted to include you guys, so I set up a poll over on my Instagram asking which animal I should draw on my last page, and I had so many good ideas come in. I actually wrote them down. And really different ones, reaching from red panda and chihuahuas, bears, chickadees, reindeers, guinea pigs, elk, sloth, raccoon, dolphin, pigs, bunnies, polar foxes. And there were a few of you who voted for both the hedgehog and the bunny. So those were votes that showed up more than once. So in the end, it was a race between the hedgehog and the bunny, and the hedgehog won. For my sketch, I'm using a water-soluble colored pencil. This one is by Faber Castell. It's an Albrecht Dürer water-soluble colored pencil in burnt ochre. I'm going to speed up the video and put some music on. So much for the sketch. It was very loose and very quick. And now I'm gonna continue with adding my base layer of watercolor. For the base layer, I'm using one of my handmade Alohawatercolors. This one's called Vanilla, and it is a white buff titanium, or titanium buff. I never know which way to say it. And you can see here how the water-soluble colored pencil mixes in with the watercolor. You can mix it more or less. It really depends on what you like. If you like your sketch to shine through your final painting, you can very gently nudge the paint onto the paper and your sketch. Or if you want everything to blend a bit more smoothly, you can just continue to rub your colored pencil sketch. It also, I think, depends a little bit on the paper, because this is such a smooth paper here on this side. Everything blends really easily. I don't think I've mentioned that earlier, but this sketchbook has a front and a back side of every page. So this is the back side, so to speak, and it's very smooth, and then the front side has a more textured paper, which is a bit tricky to work with. I do prefer it when sketchbooks have kind of like the same texture on the front and back side of the paper. While the paint is still wet, I'm going to apply another layer. This paint is called Kaleo, named after my neighbor's dog, because his fur looks like this color. It's a Van Dyke brown, so it's a very dark brown, but very transparent too. It's also really nice to mix. So what I will do is mix it with my buff titanium. And I'm gonna color in where the ears will be later, and also give this part of the body of the hedgehog a bit more of a darker hue. I'm going to start adding the quills. Now I'm using my brush very loosely and I'm holding it upright so I can utilize the tip of the brush even better. I find this loose and quick technique very relaxing, rather than doing a more realistic sketch or painting of the animal. Okay, now let's move on to the colored pencils. Because my drawing is still a little moist, I'm using water-soluble colored pencils. They are much softer than the regular colored pencils, and you can easily draw over your painting with these water-soluble colored pencils without ruining your paper. And here we go, 2 little quick hedgehogs, and I'm going to add a little bit of lettering. If you like, you can suggest 2 names for these little guys. I think that would be fun. Okay, and then once I see the comments down below, I can later add the names for these 2 little fellas. Hope this is not too wet still. Hedgehogs. Ooh, oh, those quills were still a little wet. And I also want to note that this was your vote. So let's see. Insta vote. I don't know. I don't have a better idea how to say that. And then, yeah, again, let me know how you would call these 2 little guys. And I'm going to add the date stamp, December 24th, 2025. And this is it for the last page of my animal-themed sketchbook. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Again, if you have name suggestions for these 2 little guys, please leave them down below in the comments. You can also let me know which pages were your favorite from the sketchbook tour. I wish you all a very happy, healthy, and wonderful new year, and I'm looking forward to creating with you all next year. Aloha and happy creating! So I just realized that my microphone was still stuck to my shirt. I just went out for some last minute Christmas shopping, and apparently I was just walking around the stores with my microphone still stuck on my shirt, all visible, but nobody said anything.